Have you ever stopped to think that the year you were born was not random or a mere coincidence of fate? That even the last digit of that number carries a deep mark of your spiritual essence, of your choices in past lives, and of the lessons you specifically came to learn in this current incarnation. According to ancient Buddhist teachings passed down by monks for centuries, the last digit of your birth year represents a specific type of accumulated karmic energy, a direct reflection of your spiritual past that extends through multiple lives. And understanding this number deeply can completely change the way you see yourself and understand the path of your current life. We are not talking about cheap horoscopes or generic numerology found in any magazine. This is about ancient ancestral wisdom transmitted by monks who saw life as a continuous cycle of learning, death, and rebirth in an evolutionary spiral. For them, being born in a specific year with a specific number at the end was the direct result of actions from past lives that left indelible marks. And this is clearly reflected in your current personality, in the recurring challenges you repeatedly face, and even in the inexplicable emotional pain you may carry without understanding its origin. You may not consciously remember your distant past in other incarnations, but it has left evident clues scattered throughout your life. And one of these most powerful clues is exactly the last digit of your birth year that has accompanied you since forever. In this revealing video, you will discover how each number from 0 to 9 represents a completely different and unique karmic footprint. Some people were born specifically to heal ancestral wounds, others came to lead movements and transformations. Some are paying off old accumulated karmic debts, while others are starting a completely new cycle with more lightness and opportunities. By identifying the specific number that has been with you since birth, you will connect with something much larger than just your current life, something you may have always felt intuitively, but never knew how to explain rationally. This number reveals deep hidden traits of your immortal soul and what your distant past still wants to teach you through repetitive patterns. But before we dive deeply into the spiritual meanings of each number, go ahead and leave a powerful like on this video now. This helps this spiritual content tremendously to reach more people who are also seeking self-discovery and connection with something greater. Subscribe to the channel because every week I bring deep teachings and spiritual themes that can resonate strongly with you and awaken dormant memories. And leave a comment below telling me where you are watching from right now. I love to see how far this energy of transformation is reaching people around the world. Seeing comments from different countries and cultures shows me that this spiritual quest is universal and transcends borders. Every comment you leave creates an energetic current of connection between souls who are awakening simultaneously. Now, take a deep breath, connect with your inner self, quiet your mind, because what you are about to discover can completely change how you see yourself and understand who you really are behind the social mask. It may be that something inside you awakens as if an old part of your soul were recognizing something it already knew but had completely forgotten. This feeling of, I've always known this, is not imagination, it is spiritual memory resurfacing. So pay close attention to every word, every description, because when we reach your specific number, something deep may move within your chest, and you will finally understand why you are the way you are. Before I show you the deep spiritual meaning of the last digit of your birth year, there is something absolutely crucial you need to understand first. In Buddhism, especially in the oldest traditions linked to Tibet, India, and Thailand, life does not begin at physical birth, nor does it end with the death of the body. It is a continuous and eternal flow, an uninterrupted journey, where the spirit passes through endless cycles of learning through multiple incarnations, and each rebirth inevitably carries the energetic mark of what came before in previous lives. Nothing is random in the spiritual universe, not the family you were born into, nor the body you inhabit, nor the specific year of your birth. The wisest monks always observed repetitive energetic patterns. They knew that certain people carried very specific and unmistakable energies. Some were born with a natural facility for silence and meditation, others with restless minds that never stop. Some with inexplicable talents that no one taught, others with recurring pain, inexplicable traumas, or fears that could not be explained rationally only by events of this current life. And in many documented cases, a seemingly small detail, like The last digit of your birth year served as the initial starting point to understand the path that specific soul had already traveled in past incarnations and what it was trying to heal or learn in this life. That is why this video is not just superficial spiritual entertainment. It is a powerful tool for reconnection with your deepest essence. By understanding your specific number, you are not just hearing an interesting, curious fact. You are looking back toward lives that were gone centuries ago, toward old karmas that may still be active influencing your life, and toward spiritual gifts that may be completely dormant within you, waiting to be awakened. This number is a sacred symbol, a spiritual code, a clue about your soul's journey through time. So from now on, pay maximum attention. Listen with a completely open heart, because when we start talking about the specific numbers, something inside you might suddenly awaken as if an old part of your soul were recognizing something it already knew deeply, but had completely forgotten in this incarnation. If the last digit of your birth year is 0, know right now that this is not just some unimportant detail in your life. In the deep spiritual path, especially within the oldest and most traditional Buddhist schools of Tibet and India, the number 0 simultaneously represents both the absolute beginning and the complete end at the same time. It powerfully symbolizes the primordial fertile void, the sacred space where absolutely everything is born and to which everything inevitably returns when it completes its cycle. For experienced Tibetan monks who spent decades meditating on the nature of existence, 0 is the unmistakable mark of a soul returning to the start of the spiritual evolutionary cycle. It is the clear and unequivocal sign of those who are restarting a completely new and renewed spiritual journey after one or more extremely intense lives marked by an excess of unimaginable suffering, devastating, traumatic ruptures, and often complete abandonment of the very spiritual purpose they came to fulfill. Being born under the powerful symbol of 0 means that you are a soul in a deep process of complete energetic reset, a total reprogramming of your being. This strongly suggests that in distant past lives you may have carried deep and devastating guilt that consumed you, lived through violent emotional extremes that tore you apart, or completely disconnected from your true spiritual core, totally losing the direction of your original mission. This current new incarnation comes as a silent, gentle, but firm invitation from universal life to you. Clear absolutely everything, restart from absolute 0, rebuild with full consciousness and presence. It doesn't matter at all what you lived before in other distant incarnations. What truly matters now is that you are at the absolute and sacred 0 point, the point where the crushing weight of accumulated karmic past no longer exists. Only empty, clean, and infinitely fertile space to create something completely new without repeating destructive patterns. People with 0 at the end of their year often have lives that seem to take forever to take off and gain real momentum. They go through long and painful phases of deep introspection, paralyzing existential doubt, and silent internal reconstruction that no one can see. They are the ones who frequently face pauses forced by destiny, without prior warning, an unexpected illness that takes you off autopilot, a significant loss that breaks you completely, a sudden change of life course that turns everything upside down. This is not bad luck, misfortune, or divine punishment as many mistakenly think. It is the compassionate universe consciously clearing old noise accumulated through centuries so that you can finally learn to build consciously step by step without repeating the same karmic mistakes that brought you here. These souls are deeply sensitive emotionally in a way that most do not understand, quiet inside like deep waters. But they carry an ancestral wisdom that no one can teach in books because it comes from the depths of time through multiple painful incarnations. Ancient Buddhist monks firmly believe that those who are reborn with this specific energy of 0 are here in this life to restore long-lost balance and reclaim their authentic personal truth that was silenced. These are people who were born specifically to simplify complexity, heal destructive family patterns that repeat for generations, and break old and heavy karmic cycles that imprison entire lineages. 0 does not carry the heavy energy of automatic karmic repetition. It carries the rare and precious chance to rewrite absolutely everything from complete zero, a spiritual tabula rasa. This is why these people feel at some crucial point in life a strong and irresistible call to abandon old patterns that no longer serve, to courageously break with repetitive and toxic family stories, and to create something that does not yet exist in the world in any way, whether it be a new way of living authentically without masks, an innovative project that no one thought of before, or a completely new and evolved version of themselves that they don't even recognize anymore. Behind this energy of zero is a soul that has seen too much in previous lives. It experienced absolutely everything it needed to experience through cycles of suffering and learning, and now it desperately seeks genuine depth above all else. It is extremely common for these people to have little or no tolerance for empty superficiality, manipulative emotional games, or chaotic and noisy environments that scatter energy. They feel a visceral need for inner peace, external order, and contemplative silence, and even without understanding rationally why, they frequently isolate themselves voluntarily or feel that they are deeply different from others around them. This is not emotional weakness or a lack of social skill, as many judge superficially. It is a clear sign that the soul is in deep transition, moving away from the automatic wheel of repetitive karma and consciously choosing a completely new path of evolution. The central challenge for those with the number zero is not to get completely lost in the existential void. Since this energy represents the absolute beginning, many feel as if they are starting literally from nothing with no foundation, mental clarity, or clear direction to follow. It is absolutely normal to feel deeply lost at some moments of the journey, but it is precisely in this frightening void that true transformative power resides hidden, because zero is the fertile field where any reality can be created consciously from nothing. The soul that accepts this restart as a sacred blessing and not as a cruel punishment accesses a spiritual freedom that very few people know in this life. If you have the number zero marking your birth year, your life will not be a mechanical repetition of the karmic past. It will be a conscious and deliberate creation of the future you actively choose. But this only truly happens when you stop trying to fit into the limiting molds of others and finally begin to listen to your authentic inner voice that has always known the way. You did not come to repeat old patterns without consciousness. You came specifically to completely redefine, to silence old noises that confused you, to reorganize stagnant family energy, to show a new path that no one dared to tread. And the most beautiful part of all this is that even without consciously perceiving it, you are already doing exactly that now. With every courageous choice that does not repeat the past, with every toxic cycle you consciously choose not to continue perpetuating, always remember this truth. Zero is where absolutely everything begins in the universe. It is where Buddha sat in deep silence and awakened to enlightenment. It is where the primordial sound of the universe has not yet been made. And exactly because of that, it is pure infinite potential waiting to be manifested. If this is your sacred number, your soul is giving you a precious new chance. Use it consciously with wisdom. Live with authentic truth without masks. And remember deeply, you are not void of purpose. You are the sacred space where everything can finally flourish. If the last digit of your birth year is 1, you are definitely not here by chance or mere cosmic coincidence. According to ancient Buddhist spiritual traditions passed down for centuries, this number represents a soul returning to earth with a very clear and defined sense of purpose and spiritual mission. This means that in one or more distant past lives, you went through extremely intense journeys of learning and painful trials, and now you carry a powerful energy that drives, directs, and actively builds wherever you are. The unmistakable mark of the one clearly indicates that you have returned to Earth with an active and urgent mission, not just to live passively as a spectator, but to lead unexplored paths, initiate revolutionary ideas, and inspire deep transformations in the people and structures around you. Your presence alone is a potent energetic call, and wherever you are physically, something new needs to happen and manifest through you. In esoteric teachings of Tibetan Buddhism, the One represents the first concrete manifestation after the primordial void. It is the exact point where consciousness leaves the state of contemplative silence and actively chooses to express itself in the dense material world. This energy is not gentle nor soft in any way. It is direct, powerful, and extremely demanding of itself and others. People with this spiritual frequency often feel from a very young age that there is something much bigger to do in this life. Even when they don't know exactly what specifically, they are internally restless, driven by an inner fire that simply never goes out. This innate leadership is not about impressive corporate titles, institutional hierarchical authority, or political power positions. It is an invisible but palpable spiritual leadership that appears naturally in your body posture, in your courageous decisions, and in your impressive ability to break established patterns that everyone blindly follows. You came to the world specifically to do what absolutely no one else was doing before you arrived. This could mean creating a revolutionary new way of living, building a family completely different from the one you had in childhood, bringing a unique, innovative approach to work, or even initiating an internal movement of healing that others around didn't have the courage to face yet. The number one carries the divine spark of transformative action that changes realities. But with this grandiose mission comes the inevitable weight of constant challenge, because frequently the world simply is not ready for those who go first. Opening paths. That is why people with the number one feel so much resistance from others, from life, and even from themselves in moments of deep doubt. You may face constant and unfair criticism, painful social rejection, prolonged isolation, or persistent doubts about your own value and capability. But all of this is absolutely part of the path of those who came specifically to pioneer, not to repeat what already exists. According to monks from the oldest and most respected lineages, this type of soul tends to experience dramatic moments of rupture where absolutely everything built seems to suddenly collapse without warning. Important relationships, ambitious projects, family structures, everything can seem unstable and about to collapse. But this doesn't happen by cruel chance or bad luck. The universe is constantly repositioning you strategically, pulling you out of places where your soul is being wasted in smallness. Because the number one did not come to stagnate in comfortable safety. When you finally accept this deeply, you understand that painful endings are just beginnings in disguise waiting. And your true strength is not in staying where there is no pulsing life, but in starting again with expanded consciousness after every fall. Another absolutely key point for those with the one is the painful learning about the inflated ego. People with this energy may be tempted to control absolutely everything, to constantly prove they are right, or to carry the weight of the entire world alone without asking for help. But the true spiritual master with a balanced number one is the one who learns to lead with genuine humility, who listens deeply, embraces differences, and allows others to also grow by their side. A balanced one does not need to shout to be heard clearly. Their strength comes from silent example, from the courage to be true, and from the boldness to move forward even when absolutely no one follows along. You have probably already noticed that you cannot remain for long in places without movement or growth, in relationships that do not evolve dynamically, or in mechanical routines that kill your creativity little by little. This happens because your soul viscerally needs constant construction, stimulating challenge, and clear direction. When you deny yourself this through fear or social pressure, your energy suffers tremendously, and symptoms like inexplicable fatigue, constant irritation, a feeling of suffocation, or even serious psychosomatic illnesses can arise out of nowhere. Your immortal spirit wants to expand infinitely. And if it cannot do this externally in the world, it will try to do it internally, often causing unconscious self-sabotage, paralyzing anxiety, or sudden emotional collapses. But here is a deep truth that you can never forget in this life. You were specifically chosen to take the first courageous step. Life has entrusted you with the most difficult task of all, starting what does not exist. And that alone already shows the impressive greatness of your soul through multiple incarnations. You don't need to know the entire path with all the details. You just need to start courageously with what you have now. And by starting without guarantees, you illuminate the path for countless others who will come after. The number one is the lit torch in the collective darkness. It is the breath of courage in a world dominated by fear. And even if you don't see this clearly yet, your authentic existence is already paving new paths simply because you chose to live with truth. If this is truly your number in your birth year, never silence yourself for fear of others' judgment. Never dim your inner light to fit into someone's limiting darkness. You did not come to fit in perfectly. You came to expand boundaries, to transform words into concrete actions, to show that it is possible to be different and survive. The world is literally waiting for you to take the first step, even if it doesn't know it consciously yet. Your mission is neither easy nor comfortable, but it is absolutely necessary for collective evolution. Each time you choose to be authentic instead of accepted, each time you break a toxic pattern instead of perpetuating it, each time you create instead of copying, you are fulfilling exactly what you came here to do. And it doesn't matter how many times you fall or how many abandon you halfway through. What matters is that you keep getting up, keep walking forward, keep believing that there is something greater waiting to manifest through you, because there is, and there always has been, since the moment your soul chose to return, with the number one marking your destiny. If the last digit of your birth year is 2, there is something deep in you that probably no one ever taught you to name correctly or value adequately. A silent but overwhelming sensitivity, a sharp intuition that picks up absolutely everything around it, a heart that seems to absorb the whole world energetically without protection filters. And this is not dramatic exaggeration or fertile imagination on your part. Ancient Buddhist wisdom clearly explains that souls with this specific energy return to earthly life with the sacred mission of reconnecting what was violently broken in previous lives. You specifically came into the world to unite separated people, soften destructive conflicts, balance dangerous extremes, and understand emotional depths that most cannot even touch. But before you can do this effectively for others externally, you must first learn to do it internally within yourself with compassion. And therein lies your first great existential challenge that has accompanied you since childhood. You feel too much emotionally and absorb everything like a sponge, but you learned very early to hide and suppress this to survive socially. From a very young age, you noticed things no one said out loud in family environments. You could feel the energetic vibration of a room simply by walking into it without anyone saying anything. You instantly noticed when someone was internally sad, even if they were smiling externally to hide it. You cried over seemingly silly things that others found exaggerated, dramatic, or worthy of mockery. Perhaps you repeatedly heard phrases like, "You are too sensitive," "Don't take everything to heart like that," or "This is unnecessary drama." But what absolutely no one knew or understood at that moment is that your extreme sensitivity is not a pathological emotional weakness. It is your most powerful and rare spiritual gift that very few people can truly understand or possess. The world screams loudly, and you can perfectly hear the hidden emotional subtext. The world closes itself off emotionally, and you remain vulnerably open even while bleeding. This is your essential nature, and it is extremely rare on this planet. Souls with the vibration of the 2 carry a kind of hypersensitive emotional radar. They see exactly where it hurts in others, even if no one shows it externally or admits it verbally. And because of exactly that, they frequently become the invisible emotional guardians of their family, social group, or entire community. They are those people to whom everyone turns to vent deeply, to seek genuine understanding, to feel that they are not completely alone in suffering. But the naked and raw truth is that those with the 2 often feel deeply alone themselves on the inside, Because while you meticulously care for absolutely everyone else around you, who really cares for you with the same intensity? Ancient Buddhist monks said that those who return with the number 2 carry a heavy karma of emotional reconciliation. This clearly means that in past lives you may have experienced relationships marked by traumatic abandonment, devastating betrayal, painful separation, or deep disconnection that was never healed. In this current life, you came specifically to restore emotional bonds, including mainly the absolutely essential bond with your own wounded heart. That is why you frequently attract emotionally broken people, difficult, dramatic situations, or intense emotional dramas that test your limits. Your old soul wants to finally learn to love deeply without losing itself completely in the process, to offer genuine empathy without sacrificing your own dignity and value. You have probably often felt that you are always in an invisible second plane, that you constantly give much more than you receive back, that you remain in silence to avoid unnecessary conflicts, that you forgave things that still hurt deeply just to maintain superficial peace, that you accepted far less than you deserve to avoid appearing demanding or problematic. All of this is absolutely part of your karmic path of learning, but it is also an urgent red alert. Those born with the number 2 urgently need to learn that empathy without clear limits quickly turns into destructive self-abandonment. Your sacred mission is not to completely erase yourself to serve others. It is to be a strong bridge that connects without breaking. And solid bridges do not destroy themselves to please those who simply cross over them without gratitude. You also possess an absolutely powerful gift that few recognize, the innate ability to harmonize environments just with your calm presence. You transform heavy atmospheres with your soft energy, relieve accumulated tensions, offer genuine listening and deep compassion, sometimes without even needing to speak a single word. Your mere silent presence already heals invisible wounds, and even if others don't say it verbally often, they definitely feel it deep down. You possess the sacred gift of water in human form. You adapt fluidly, flow around obstacles, navigate through difficulties, but you can also completely drown if you do not respect your own energetic limits. When you finally learn to use this gift consciously with wisdom, you become one of the most healing beings that exist on this planet. But the number 2 also comes with a severe warning that cannot be ignored. Do not lose yourself completely trying to please others at any cost. Your precious soul desperately needs restorative silence, inspiring beauty, and deep self-care. You need to nurture yourself as much as you generously nurture others around you. The absolute key here is delicate but firm balance. When you finally start saying no without paralyzing guilt, when you definitely learn not to carry burdens that are not yours, something deep inside you aligns perfectly. And that is exactly where your true power flourishes magnificently. Because a spiritually balanced 2 does not live for others while losing themselves. They live in genuine connection with everyone without ever losing themselves in the process. If this is truly your sacred number, know with absolute certainty that you are not alone in this challenging mission. Thousands of souls are awakening now simultaneously to the same call to heal toxic relationships, restore lost self-love, and bring back compassionate listening and genuine tenderness to this hardened world. You are definitely one of these chosen precious souls. And even if the path seems painfully lonely in some dark moments, every act of compassion you offer generously, including mainly to yourself, is exactly what you came to do here with kindness, depth, and absolutely real love. Your sensitivity is not a defect that needs to be corrected. It is your superpower waiting to be fully embraced and used consciously to heal this world that so badly needs people like you who still feel deeply. If the last digit of your birth year is 3, know right now that you carry an inner light that simply never goes out, no matter how much life tries to darken you. But you may not have always felt this throughout your difficult journey. Many people with this specific vibration went through long and painful phases where they felt they were too much for the world around them. They talked too much and were silenced, felt too much and were ridiculed, dreamed too much and were called delusional, had too many ideas and were labeled scattered, and ended up desperately trying to contain and diminish themselves to fit in. But according to ancient Buddhist masters who studied soul patterns for centuries, the number 3 is the soul that returns specifically to express what was violently silenced in multiple previous lives, to transform repressed deep emotion into liberating healing art and accumulated pain into transcendent creation that touches others. You came to shine intensely with all your authenticity, even if sometimes you have to fight fiercely against your own internal shadow of self-criticism to achieve it. 3 represents the absolutely powerful energy of authentic emotional expansion without masks. People with this number have an impressive natural facility to touch other people deeply. With their sincere words, their piercing gaze, their genuine humor, their warm and welcoming presence. They have a frequently childlike and pure glow that magnetically attracts and warms cold hearts. But behind this external glow exists a soul that has known deep darkness and severe traumas. And that is exactly what makes the number 3 so spiritually special and so necessary in this world. It is someone who smiles authentically, even knowing indescribable pain. Not because they ignore or deny suffering as a defense mechanism, but because they deeply understood that it doesn't need to eternally be the end of the story or define identity. Buddhist monks categorically say that souls with this vibration live past lives extremely marked by systematic emotional repression, places where they could not authentically be who they were, where their voices were brutally silenced, where their innovative ideas were cruelly devalued. In this current life, the call is absolutely clear and urgent. Be, feel, speak, share without fear. You no longer need to hide or try to fit into molds made specifically to diminish and control you. Your soul returned determined to create freely. And it doesn't matter how this creation manifests. Through visual art, liberating humor, written words, gentle gestures, or simply your unique way of touching life and people. You have probably been called misunderstood countless times, labeled as exaggerated or dramatic, considered too intense or too sensitive. And perhaps exactly because of that, you have painfully learned to swallow important words, hide genuine feelings, or suffocate legitimate dreams so as not to bother anyone. But the number 3 literally suffers and sickens in forced silence. Your true healing is exactly in authentic expression. If the last digit of your birth year is 4, there is a great statistical chance that you are exactly the person everyone turns to when things completely crumble around them. And this is not random coincidence or bad luck in the lottery of life. Ancient Buddhist teachings passed down through generations clearly say that 4 is the energy of solid and reliable structure. The soul that returns to life specifically to sustain, organize with precision, protect the vulnerable, and patiently rebuild what is broken. It is the vibration of completely invisible pillars, those who do not appear in celebratory photos or receive well-deserved public recognition, but without whom absolutely nothing stays standing in the world. You may have never felt special or extraordinary like other brilliant people around you, but that is because your immense value resides precisely in the strength that no one can see working silently behind the scenes. Souls with this spiritual mark often lived past lives extremely marked by deep and terrifying instability, constant and unpredictable chaos, or painful abandonment that left deep scars. They experienced directly on their own skin what it is like to live without a solid foundation, clear direction, or firm ground under their feet. So in this current incarnation, they return with an almost instinctive and irresistible drive to create order from chaos, security amidst uncertainty, and stable routine where there is only disorder. From a very young age, these people feel deeply that they need to take on heavy responsibilities, that they can never fail, that they must always be available and strong for everyone, and they end up taking on too much responsibility, often without realizing they are carrying the emotional weight of everyone except their own. You are probably the type of person who works tirelessly while absolutely everyone else rests peacefully. The one who keeps everything running when everyone else breaks down emotionally, who doesn't know how to ask for help without feeling shame, but is always helping others generously without expecting anything back. And this creates a subtle but extremely dangerous trap. You get so used to surviving alone that you literally forget to live fully. Your soul is so loyally dedicated to the mission of keeping everything running perfectly that you frequently forget completely that you also need care, rest, and recognition. The number 4 is strong and resilient, but it is definitely not made of indestructible iron. And behind this impressive strength is a heart deeply longing for true lightness, well-deserved rest, and genuine recognition. Buddhist monks used to say categorically that 4 is the number of genuine spiritual discipline. But note carefully, discipline is not inflexible rigidity. It is wise consistency with compassion. People with this number tend to be extremely self-critical and relentless with themselves, seeking unattainable perfection, total control, or absolute stability at any emotional cost. But the great transformative lesson of the 4 in this life is to deeply understand that not everything needs to be under control all the time. There is deep beauty in authentic imperfection. You do not need to fix absolutely everything all the time, especially what is not your responsibility to carry. Your spiritual mission is to build solid foundations, yes, but also to learn to trust the process of life. Perhaps you constantly feel that you have no time for yourself, that there's always something urgent to do, fix, or meticulously care for. And this may be the direct result of a soul that mistakenly believes it will only be loved if it is useful and productive. But this is not absolute truth in any way. You deserve unconditional love even when you are not solving anything for anyone. You are worthy of rest, pause, and lightness even when nothing is working perfectly around you. When you finally begin to consciously allow this for yourself, the 4 stops being just the rigid structure for others and finally becomes the loving foundation for yourself as well. And that is exactly where your strength flourishes with healthy balance, without painful rigidity, without chronic exhaustion, without constant and suffocating pressure. There is an absolutely silent beauty in you that few can see clearly, a deep wisdom that does not come from academic books, but from the tireless daily practice of being present, even when extremely tired. You are exactly the type of soul that transforms chaos into functional routine, paralyzing fear into executable plans, despair into practical solutions. And perhaps no one tells you this often enough, but the world around you only remains whole and functioning because you are there holding it all up. Even if invisible, even in complete silence, even if you feel deep loneliness, you are literally the solid foundation. You are the firm ground. You are the safe harbor in storms. The central challenge of the 4 is not to harden too much emotionally, not to close yourself off completely in the habit of carrying the world alone without asking for help. You need to constantly remember that structure is not a limiting prison. It is liberating support. And you have a sacred right to lightness, art, pleasure, and silence too, without guilt. Your soul is old and experienced, yes, but it is not here only to work tirelessly or constantly protect others. It is here to live with full presence. And your firm presence, even when silent, is one of the strongest forms of healing that exists in this chaotic planet. If this is truly your number in your birth year, know with absolute certainty that your mission is grandiose and essential, but it definitely does not need to be lonely and heavy. By allowing yourself to be seen as vulnerable, by asking for help without paralyzing guilt, by accepting that you can also be vulnerable and imperfect, you find a completely different type of strength, one that comes not from exhaustive effort, but from deep trust. You don't need to carry everything alone always. You have already sufficiently proven your value. Now, perhaps it is finally the time to start building a life that also sustains you from the inside out, not just constantly sustains others around you. And when you make this internal paradigmatic shift, something deep is transformed. What was once a heavy burden becomes a light mission. What was once a suffocating obligation becomes a conscious choice. And you finally understand that being a pillar does not mean being inflexible. It means being strong enough to bend without breaking, wise enough to rest without guilt, and courageous enough to ask for support when you need it. You came to build, yes, but also to teach the world that even the strongest pillars need loving care and maintenance. Your vulnerability is not weakness, it is humanity. And when you embrace it completely, you become not just the structure that sustains, but the living example that true strength also includes kindness toward oneself. Continue being the pillar that you are, but remember, even the highest mountains need the soft earth to rest. If the last digit of your birth year is 5, you probably felt this in absolutely every cell of your body since you were a little child. You definitely were not made to live trapped or confined in any way. No matter the physical place, emotional relationship, mechanical routine, or even a fixed and rigid idea. If it energetically confines you or limits your essence, you immediately begin to sicken inside without being able to rationally explain why. Ancient Buddhist masters saw the number 5 as the pure representation of souls carrying the sacred element of air. Free by nature, quick and agile, instinctive and spontaneous, deeply linked to constant movement and infinite expansion. But this intense freedom inevitably comes with a real and painful cost, chronic instability that accompanies you. The soul that returns with the 5 desperately wants to live many completely different lives within a single existence. And this can simultaneously be both your greatest gift and your greatest destructive internal chaos. People with this spiritual vibration are tireless and insatiable natural explorers. They have an absolutely insatiable thirst to know deeply, experience intensely, discover constantly, and break outdated rules without fear. They are those who always ask internally and externally, what if it were completely different? What if I don't want to follow the same limiting path that everyone else blindly follows without questioning? From a very early age, the 5 challenges rigid social expectations, questions the world around it persistently, feels that there is something much larger and more significant out there, something that absolutely no one is talking openly about, something that needs to be lived intensely without restrictions. And this can make you appear restless and unstable, shaky and unpredictable, or even irresponsible and immature in the extremely limited eyes of others who live on autopilot. But in the depths of your being, all you really want is authentic truth without masks, infinite expansion without limits, and deep meaning without superficiality. Souls with the number 5 live past lives extremely marked by brutal repression, physical or emotional confinement, or suffocating mechanical repetition. They may have been violently forced to obey without questioning, to follow a rigid imposed pattern, or to live a life that they simply did not consciously choose. In this current life, they returned with an energy that terminally refuses to fit in perfectly. And that is exactly why the 5 is so closely linked to transformative revolution, not only externally in the world, but also internally in one's own being. These people are always changing something. And sometimes even they themselves don't know exactly why they change so much. But behind the constant change is a soul desperately trying to find its own authentic voice. A soul actively clearing painful memories of confinement from distant past incarnations. But this intense freedom has a high price when unbalanced. The number 5, when completely unbalanced, can easily fall into excessive movement without real purpose, changing absolutely everything all the time without reason, starting ambitious projects and finishing absolutely none of them, getting emotionally involved with people but never truly committing, chasing the next new and exciting thing without fully savoring the present now. If the last digit of your birth year is 6, there is something in you that is absolutely impossible to fake or hide from others. An almost sacred and visceral need to deeply care for those around you constantly. From a very young age, you probably felt responsible for the complete emotional well-being of others around you. Perhaps you took on adult roles while still a small child, carried emotional pains that were definitely not yours to carry, or felt that you were only truly loved when you were being useful and available to someone, and this absolutely was not by cruel chance or bad luck. According to ancient Buddhist masters who studied soul cycles, the number 6 represents souls that return specifically with the sacred mission of restoring love in the world, starting with those closest around them. This mission is beautiful and noble, but also tremendously challenging and exhausting because those with this vibration did not come with a light and carefree soul. They came with a soul deeply full of intense emotional memories of extremely painful past lives. They are people who in distant previous incarnations experienced devastating and deep losses, traumatic abandonments that left a mark, absolutely devastating betrayals, or situations where they simply could not protect those they desperately loved. In this current life, these souls return with a silent but absolutely powerful commitment to leave absolutely no one behind or helpless. And this, even completely unconsciously, puts you in positions of extreme giving where you frequently care meticulously for absolutely everyone except yourself. The six has a natural light that magnetically attracts, but also an extremely dangerous tendency to forget its own sacred limits for the sake of superficial harmony. You have probably already been the shoulder for many to cry on, the unpaid emotional advisor, the constant support, the unshakable foundation. You held intense pain in silence so as not to worry anyone around you. You made choices that hurt you deeply just to avoid external conflict. You accepted much less than you deserved just not to appear demanding or problematic. All of this is part of your karmic path of learning, but it is also an urgent red alert that cannot be ignored. Those born with the number 6 urgently need to learn that empathy without clear limits quickly turns into destructive self-abandonment. Your spiritual mission is not to completely erase yourself to serve others. It is to be a strong bridge, and solid bridges do not break to please those who cross over them without gratitude. You also have an absolutely powerful gift that few openly recognize, the innate ability to create safe environments just with your calm presence. You transform heavy atmospheres with your soft energy, relieve accumulated tensions, offer genuine listening and deep compassion, sometimes without even speaking a single word. Your mere silent presence already heals invisible wounds, and even if others don't say it verbally often, they definitely feel it deep down. You possess the sacred gift of water in human form. You adapt fluidly, flow around obstacles, navigate through difficulties, but you can also completely drown if you do not respect your own energetic limits. When you finally learn to use this gift consciously with wisdom, you become one of the most healing beings that exist on this planet. But the number 6 also comes with a severe warning that cannot be ignored. Do not lose yourself completely trying to please others at any emotional cost. Your precious soul desperately needs restorative silence, inspiring beauty, and deep self-care. You need to nurture yourself as much as you generously nurture others around you. The absolute key here is delicate but firm balance. When you finally start saying no without paralyzing guilt, when you definitely learn not to carry burdens that are not yours, something deep inside you aligns perfectly. And that is exactly where your true power flourishes magnificently. The energy of the 6 is deeply linked to family, not only biological, but mainly spiritual. You have a rare ability to create deep bonds, to make others feel welcomed, seen, loved. But you can also feel that you are always the strong person in absolutely everything. The soul of the 6 carries a sense of duty that when completely unbalanced becomes a suffocating prison. You don't need to save everyone around you. You don't need to be perfect always. You don't need to be available 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. You only need to be true and give yourself the same care you give to others constantly. Ancient Buddhist monks said categorically that the number 6 carries the heavy karma of giving. This means the soul came specifically to develop the emotional maturity necessary to love with genuine freedom, not out of desperate need, emotional dependency, or paralyzing guilt, but out of expanded consciousness. That is why your relationships can seem intense, confusing, challenging, but all of them are teaching you to clearly distinguish between love that imprisons and love that truly liberates. Your mission is not to have perfect relationships without conflicts, but to evolve deeply through them. You also have a strong gift of energetic healing. You may not perceive this consciously, but people feel significantly calmer around you. Your presence heals invisibly. Your touch is therapeutic. Your words comfort deeply. This gift is extremely ancient. It comes from past lives where you learn to care for, protect, and sustain others. But now it is finally the moment to use this for yourself as well without guilt. If you do not care for your own energy, establish limits, or prioritize yourself adequately, this gift transforms into chronic exhaustion, and an exhausted soul simply cannot heal anyone effectively. You absolutely deserve the same love you so generously offer. Start by giving it to yourself daily. If this is truly your sacred number, no, you are not here to love fewer people, but to love better and more consciously, to love with full awareness, healthy balance, and genuine presence. Do not feel guilt for wanting to care for others. It is your nature. But also do not accept less than you generously give. The world desperately needs your unique tenderness, but you need your own authentic truth. And when these two forces finally balance harmoniously within you, something absolutely rare happens. Love stops being an exhausting effort and transforms into natural healing. You stop sacrificing yourself and start honoring yourself. And that is when you finally understand that caring for yourself is not selfishness. It is the only way to continue caring for others sustainably, because you cannot give from emptiness. You can only give from internal abundance. And when you fill yourself first, you become an inexhaustible source of love that heals yourself and everyone around you simultaneously. If the last digit of your birth year is 7, you probably felt at some deep point in life that you simply do not belong to this world exactly as it is structured. Perhaps you looked around and felt a deep and inexplicable disconnection, as if something were fundamentally wrong with absolutely everything, or worse yet, as if something were terribly wrong with yourself. But the spiritual truth is exactly the opposite of what you thought was wrong. In deep ancestral Buddhism, 7 is the number of the silent sages, of the contemplative observers, of the extremely ancient souls who return to earth with a mission completely different from all others, to seek absolute truth beyond deceptive, superficial appearances. People with this vibration are naturally introspective and contemplative by essence. They prefer deep silence to empty and noisy superficiality, genuine depth to the fleeting and meaningless passing, naked truth to deceptive appearances and social masks. And because of exactly that, from a very young age, they may have been seen as different, strange, or out of place. Perhaps you struggled desperately to fit in socially or were considered weird, too reserved, or living constantly in your own parallel inner world. But what very few can understand is that your inner world is vast, deep, and infinitely richer. You observe absolutely everything around you, process everything deeply, feel far beyond the surface of things, and this is absolutely mentally exhausting. It demands regular solitude, time to process alone, and advanced spiritual maturity that few possess. The soul of the number 7 often carries vivid memories of lives spent seeking answers in isolated sacred places, remote mountain temples, ancient and secret spiritual schools. They are people who were contemplative monks, energetic healers, solitary hermits, dedicated scholars. In this current life, they return with an absolutely insatiable thirst for deep meaning that is not satisfied by ordinary things or superficial worldly pleasures. You need to understand deeply, dive into the hidden layers, find something that connects absolutely everything into a coherent whole. Until you achieve this, you may feel an existential void that no quick pleasure can temporarily fill. Another absolutely striking aspect of the number 7 is inherent spirituality. Even if you do not follow any organized religion, there is a sense of deep connection with something much larger in you. Perhaps it is through untouched nature, silent meditation, philosophical study, or contemplative art. But this connection is absolutely real and needs to be nourished consciously. When you distance yourself from your spirituality, from your inner search, absolutely everything in your life seems to lose meaning and purpose, because the soul of the 7 simply did not come for an ordinary and automatic life. It came specifically to touch the invisible and bring ancestral wisdom to a completely sleeping world. It is important to understand that with this number, you definitely are not here to please superficially. You are here to see hidden truths. And because you see what others do not see, you will often be misunderstood and rejected. Your deep questions bother superficial people. Your contemplative silence bothers noisy people. Your crystal clarity bothers confused people. But this is absolutely part of your unique path. You are not the problem that needs to be corrected. You are the mirror that reflects truths, and not all are ready to see. Themselves clearly reflected, learn to stand firm in exactly who you are, even when the world around you seems desperately shallow. Depth is your true spiritual home. You may often feel that you know things without having formally learned them. Intuitions that prove true, sensations that no one around you can understand. And this is absolutely not an illusion or fertile imagination. It is part of your sharp spiritual sensitivity. The number 7 is the one that pierces veils of illusion, that feels energies, that sees far beyond the obvious. And when you finally begin to fully trust this gift instead of questioning it, your life changes dramatically. The answers begin to come naturally. Connections form synchronistically, truth appears clearly, and you finally realize that you were never really lost, just looking in the wrong and superficial places. If this is truly your sacred number, fully embrace your existential search. Honor your insatiable thirst for meaning deeply. Never settle for less than absolute authenticity. And always remember, you definitely did not come to fit perfectly into prefabricated molds. You came specifically to awaken consciences, even if that leads you down lonely paths in some moments. These are exactly the same paths trodden by souls who in other lives were also guardians of the invisible and protectors of truth. You are one of them, and the world desperately needs your crystal clear vision. Now more than ever in human history, humanity is asleep, and you are one of the souls who came to wake it up. Your loneliness is not punishment, it is preparation. Your questioning is not a problem, it is a mission. Your depth is not a defect, it is your greatest gift to a world that has lost contact with the sacred. Keep seeking, keep questioning, keep diving deep where others are afraid to go, because it is exactly there, in the depths that frighten most, that you find the truths you came to seek in this incarnation. And when you find them, do not just keep them for yourself. Share them with those few who have ears to hear and eyes to see. Because your wisdom is not just for you, it is to illuminate the path for others who are also seeking, but do not yet know where to look. If the last digit of your birth year is 8, you carry one of the absolutely most intense energies of all, without any exception. This is the unmistakable mark of souls who return to earth with overwhelming strength, undeniable natural ambition, and an absolutely clear destiny for material and spiritual leadership. But contrary to what many think superficially, this is not just about material success or accumulation of external wealth. In deep and esoteric Buddhism, the number 8 represents the sacred path of realization through the extremely delicate balance between the internal and external worlds. It is the number of direct and immediate karma. What you sow today, you reap tomorrow, and frequently you reap much faster and more intensely than other people around you. Your soul came specifically to learn to lead with true wisdom. But before leading the external world with authority, you need to learn to lead yourself internally with iron discipline. Souls with this vibration live past lives extremely marked by directly dealing with immense power, whether material, political, social, or spiritual. Some use this power with wisdom and balance, others with imbalance and abuse that created heavy karma. So in this current life, you may experience intense and dramatic extremes, great unexpected victories, great devastating losses, forced restarts from absolute zero. Absolutely nothing in your journey is average or common. And this happens because the 8 came specifically to learn to handle the extremely heavy energy of real responsibility. When you act with full awareness and clear intention, doors open with absolutely astounding speed. When you act with imbalance or an inflated ego, everything can quickly collapse. The universe constantly tests you without stopping. You probably feel a strong impulse toward autonomy, independence, and realization from a very young age. You may be someone who never settled for blindly following orders, who always wanted to do things in your own unique way, and this is absolutely part of your spiritual calling. You came to create your own paths where none existed. But this can make you a relentless perfectionist, an obsessive controller, or even impatient when things don't happen on your mental schedule. When things do not manifest in your time, frustration hits hard, and with it, the suffocating feeling that you are never doing enough. The great transformative lesson for the soul of the eight is that true power is not in rigid control. It is in dynamic balance. Perhaps you have lived through situations where you lost absolutely everything: money, status, structure, security. And in those terrifying moments, you asked yourself desperately, why did this happen to me? The spiritual answer is deep. The eight carries a karma of constant readjustment. The universe takes everything away temporarily to show that true value is in who you are internally, not in what you possess externally. The soul of the eight needs to regularly remember that power without consciousness becomes a golden prison, that success without purpose transforms into existential void, and that you do not need to prove absolutely anything to anyone. Your strength is already within you, even when everything around completely collapses. You also have an absolutely natural talent for management, strategy, and practical vision. People with the number 8 are those who know exactly how to transform abstract ideas into concrete reality. They have laser focus, impressive resilience, and courage that few possess. But at the same time, they need to take extreme care not to become too hard on themselves and others around them. Not everything needs to be useful always. Not everything needs to produce measurable results. The soul of the 8, when it finally reconnects with deep spirituality, begins to understand that the most important success is that which brings true inner peace, not just empty external applause. Another strong trait of this energy is powerful personal magnetism. You attract people, opportunities, challenges, everything in maximum intensity. And sometimes you carry burdens that are definitely not yours just because you feel you need to deal with everything alone. This is extremely common in souls who were leaders in past lives. But in this life, the call is completely different. You came to lead with an open heart, with genuine empathy, with conscious presence. You don't need to be hard to be firm. You don't need to command to be respected. Your true power is born when you are at deep peace with who you are. Buddhist monks used to say that the number 8 is exactly like sacred fire. It can warm and illuminate everything around, or it can completely destroy, depending on how it is used. And that is exactly your spiritual path. You have plenty of energy available. You have a clear vision. You have impressive capability. But you need to constantly and honestly ask yourself, what is all this really for? What really matters at the end of life? When you find that deep answer, absolutely everything changes. What was suffocating pressure becomes an inspiring mission. What was an exhaustive struggle becomes a trusting surrender, and what was heavy karma transforms into liberation. If this is truly your number, understand deeply. You came to the world to do great things, yes, but not at the cost of your precious soul. Success with clear purpose, power with genuine compassion, ambition with expanded consciousness. This is the true path of the awakened 8. And when you finally find this delicate balance, there is absolutely no limit to what you can create both inside and outside yourself. You are not here just to accumulate. You are here to realize and transform. And true realization necessarily includes inner peace, healthy relationships, and a legacy that goes far beyond material achievements. The balanced 8 does not measure success only in bank numbers. It measures in lives touched, in transformations inspired, in love shared. And when you understand this viscerally, you finally become what you were always destined to be. Not just a powerful leader, but a wise master who knows that true power is serving something larger than personal ego. And perhaps the most important lesson that the 8 needs to learn in this life is that you don't need to do everything alone to prove your value. You are already valuable simply for existing. Your value is not in what you achieve, but in who you are when no one is looking. And when you internalize this deeply, something magical happens. You stop fighting against life and start flowing with it. You stop proving and start being. And that is when true power manifests. not through forced control, but through natural alignment with your higher purpose. Keep building, keep realizing, keep leading, but do all of this from a place of internal fullness, not from a void that needs to be filled. Because when you lead from fullness, you not only achieve success, you create a legacy that lasts far beyond this life. If the last digit of your birth year is 9, then you are exactly the type of person who frequently feels emotionally drained without being able to rationally explain why. You have a sensitivity that is extremely difficult to explain and almost painful, an empathy so deep that you seem to carry the pain of the entire world inside your tight chest. And you really do carry that heavy collective pain. In deep and esoteric Buddhism, the 9 represents the soul in its final turns on the wheel of cyclic rebirth, someone who has lived countless lives through centuries, performed absolutely all possible roles in the theater of existence, and who has now returned with a single central and defined purpose: to serve evolution, both your own and that of others around you. You probably felt since you were a little child that you saw much more than others saw, that you felt too much emotionally, that you noticed hidden lies, concealed truths, intentions behind seemingly innocent gestures. And this absolutely is not your fertile imagination or paranoia. It is an integral part of your accumulated spiritual heritage through multiple incarnations. The number 9 carries a refined intuition that often cannot rationally explain what it feels so intensely. It just knows. It just perceives. It just feels with absolute certainty without needing proof. And this gift can become an extremely heavy burden if you do not consciously learn to protect yourself energetically in an effective way, because the soul of the 9 attracts spontaneous confessions, others' pains, requests for help, as if others instinctively knew that you have something different and healing. Souls with this vibration lived lives of very deep and varied learning. They have already been helpless victims and cruel oppressors, inspiring leaders and obedient followers. They have been at the top of society and at the lowest bottom. So in this life, they return with a much broader and more compassionate vision of existence. But this also means that you frequently feel completely out of place in the world. Small and empty talk tires you deeply. Superficiality bothers you viscerally. And above all, you have an immense desire to do something truly meaningful, even if you still don't know exactly what it is. It is extremely common for the soul of the number 9 to go through significant losses, forced endings, and extremely painful separations. This is not cruel punishment or bad luck. It is necessary karmic detachment. The universe is constantly preparing you to let go, to release, to close old cycles, because your mission is to evolve and guide others as well. You are like the healer who bleeds along, who feels the pain of others as if it were your own, who struggles to say no because you know how much others desperately need you. But here is your central challenge. Do not confuse genuine compassion with destructive self-abandonment. You are not here to carry the whole world on your shoulders. You are here to inspire the world with your presence, your listening, your calm, and your ancestral wisdom. You are someone who, with a few words, completely changes the vibration of a room, who carries a silent maturity often mistaken for coldness, but which in truth is pure depth. And those who do not have that depth simply will not understand you, and that is perfectly acceptable. The 9 does not need to be understood by absolutely everyone. It only needs to remember that its soul is extremely rare and has a unique role. Another strong trait of the number 9 is the tendency to always put others first. You help, support, understand, console, and frequently do not receive the same in return. You may have even developed a certain distrust of the world, a silent sadness that no one sees. But this is exactly the moment to change that radically. Your healing begins when you learn to embrace yourself with the same love you so generously offer to others. It is not selfishness. It is necessary spiritual justice. A soul as old as yours desperately needs silence, rest, space. It needs to learn to choose itself without paralyzing guilt. Buddhist masters say categorically that the 9 is the number of complete transcendence. That is, the soul that is no longer here to compete pettily, prove value, or conquer status. but to release absolutely everything that still binds it to unnecessary suffering. That is why meditation, spirituality, art, and service are absolutely essential paths for those with this energy. You find deep relief when you are helping, creating, or near the sacred. And it is in those precious moments that you reconnect with who you always were long before this current life began. If this is truly your sacred number, understand deeply. You are a closing, a point of passage, an extremely ancient soul that returns specifically to heal, inspire, conclude old stories. You don't need to be in a hurry. You don't need to shine by calling attention. You only need to live with truth, with lightness, with love. And when you do that authentically, absolutely everything around you is transformed because your energy is not noisy, but it is deeply transformative. The 9 is compassion walking on earth. It is the silent wisdom that does not need to shout to be heard. It is the love that gives without expecting to receive. But you need to learn that giving does not mean emptying yourself. You can be generous without sacrificing yourself. You can love without losing yourself. And when you find that delicate balance, you become exactly what you came to be, a bridge between worlds, a healer of souls, a closer of karmic cycles. Your mission is not to save everyone because not everyone wants to be saved. Your mission is to be available for those who are ready. And when they arrive, you know exactly what to do because you have done it countless times before in other lives. Your soul does not forget, even when your mind does not remember. That is why so many times you act by instinct, guided by something larger than you that you can't even name. And perhaps the most beautiful thing about the number 9 is exactly that. You came to teach that endings are not tragedies, they are transformations. That letting go is not losing, it is liberating. That true compassion begins in looking at yourself in the mirror with the same love you offer to others. You are completing a cycle, ending a journey of multiple lives. And so everything you touch has an air of finalization, of conclusion, of necessary closure. You do not build to last eternally. You build to transform and let go. And there is a deep beauty in that, a wisdom that only old souls understand. Continue being who you are. Continue feeling deeply. Continue offering love to the world. But always remember, you also deserve to receive. You also deserve to rest. You also deserve to be cared for. And when you allow that, when you finally accept that you are as worthy of love as any person you have ever helped, something magical happens. You free yourself. And a free 9 soul is one of the most powerful and transformative forces that can exist on this planet. You did not come only to heal others. You came to heal yourself, and in doing so, show the path for countless others who will come after. Now that you have discovered deeply what the last digit of your birth year can reveal about your past lives and current spiritual mission, you are probably feeling something really difficult to explain with simple words. Perhaps it is a silent sensation of deep recognition, as if an extremely ancient part of you had suddenly awakened from sleep. Perhaps you heard a specific description and immediately thought clearly, that is exactly me. I have always been this way since I've known myself. And this is absolutely not by chance or cosmic coincidence. The deepest truths of the immortal soul do not arrive with external noise or dramatic fanfare. They reveal themselves silently in inexplicable chills, in contemplative silence, in the fixed gaze that feels without being able to rationally understand why. You have simply touched something that was stored internally for a long time, waiting patiently for the right moment to finally be consciously remembered. These numbers are not magical in the usual and superficial sense of the word that people use. They do not predict the future deterministically or label your identity in a limiting and rigid way. They are extremely powerful spiritual mirrors reflecting deep traits, repetitive patterns, and memories that you have carried for a long time, through multiple incarnations. And now that you have this valuable information in your hands, the most important question is not whether you intellectually believe in it, but what you are going to do concretely with what you felt emotionally deep in your chest. Because this journey of self-discovery does not end here in any way. It begins right now, in this exact moment, with expanded consciousness, genuine curiosity, and the courage to live your authentic truth without social masks. And perhaps for the first time in your life, you finally understand why you feel what you feel so intensely, why you act in certain specific ways that others do not understand, why you get emotional with things that no one around you can understand or validate emotionally. These deep explanations do not come from logical reason or cold mental analysis. They come directly from the immortal soul that crosses time and space. And the soul speaks through ancestral symbols, sudden intuitions, small, subtle signs, like a seemingly random number in your birth year that has accompanied you since forever. This video is not a definitive final answer to all your existential questions. It is an open and sincere invitation, a spiritual call to start listening again to who you always were before the world taught you to forget your divine essence. If this touched you in some meaningful and deep way, I ask for 3 simple but extremely important things. First, leave a powerful like on this video right now. This shows the YouTube platform that this spiritual content deserves to reach other souls who are also seeking something deeper than superficial and empty entertainment. Every like helps spread this message to more people who need to hear it urgently. Second, subscribe to the channel immediately, because here you will find many more messages like this, made with absolute truth, deep respect for your spirituality, and the care your unique journey deserves, without judgments or dogmas. Every week I bring teachings that can resonate with your soul and awaken memories that were dormant, waiting for the right moment. And finally, comment below where you are watching from right now and which number resonated most deeply with your essence. It may seem small and insignificant, but this energetic exchange connects us spiritually in ways that go beyond the digital. And you never know who might strongly resonate with your energy in the comments, creating connections that surpass the virtual and touch the spiritual. Reading the comments and seeing people from different countries and cultures recognizing themselves in these descriptions shows me that this spiritual quest is universal and transcends artificial borders. Every comment you leave creates an energetic current of connection between souls who are awakening simultaneously at this crucial moment for humanity. Always remember this fundamental truth. You are not alone in this spiritual search that sometimes seems lonely. There are thousands of other souls awakening at the exact same time as you all over the world. And if you reach this final point of the video, it is because you are part of this spiritual generation that is starting to remember its cosmic origins, heal its repetitive karmic cycles, and build a new elevated collective consciousness. You have an important role in this planetary transformation that is happening now. It may seem small to the limited eyes of the material world, but it is immense in the energetic vibration it carries. Every individual awakening is a light that shines in the collective dormant darkness, and today you lit your inner flame. Do not let anyone put out this light that you finally found within yourself. Protect it, nourish it, let it grow, because the world needs your specific light shining exactly as only you can shine. Your journey is not like anyone else's. Your number does not define you completely, but it gives you clues about where you came from and where you are going. Use this information as tools for self-knowledge, not as limiting prisons. You are much more than a number. You are an eternal soul on a journey of evolution, and each life is an opportunity to learn, grow, heal, and move ever closer to your divine essence. Thank you from the bottom of my heart for being here and for allowing this message to reach you. May this journey continue guiding you inward to the only place where all the answers you seek have always been in waiting, inside your own heart.